Cambia solo para que salga. Hey, hace night mode y se enfoca mejor. Y luego el vato de qué está sacando los pinches flores.
But it's just all.
I was like, what?
Gorgeous.
This is what the age
No se me puede olvidar la boca.
Inglés de literatura. Literatura inglés.
¿Será libro?
No vale la. Cheers.
No hemos tirado, no hemos tirado.
Si me tomas una por esta, te la agradezco. Pues no seguía su hijo.
El mundo está convirtiendo en telefónico. A ver si tienes que...
videos conmigo.
A ver, ¿dónde es ahí?
¿Dónde es ahí? ¿Dónde?
¿Dónde? Pues tú dime. Príndete, ¿no?
Más cerquitas.
Prácticamente. Prácticamente yo creo que aquí llega.
Es la semilla de la palma.
Ah.
Dermot Morgan, oh, mira, él lo hizo. Del 52 al 98 se murió. No vivió mucho. Del 50 al 2000 son 50. Quítale 4. 46. Huele sabroso.
Yo creo que estoy llena, pero...
Eso es frente propia comida.
¿Eso qué?
Frente propia comida. ponte ahí y te la voy a sacar. Te agarras así de las piedras. Sí.
No, I have this shampoo for my face.
No, for the face.
Así mira. Toma foto. Ok.
Buscando el tamalito.
Y hasta por abajo, hasta.
Ven, graba.
Eu comecei a usar o multi quando eu vi.
sorry, weil es soll ja nicht sehen, aber nützlich wäre. Und wenn es im Shop lagert,
very briefly, verbally, we believe St. Patrick was kidnapped from Roman Britain back in the 5th century. They say Wales, brought back to Ireland, and he was made a swineherder for 7 years, looking after sheep in the north of the country. Ultimately, he heard a voice in his ear telling him to escape, which he did, get on a boat and went back to Britain, where he was ordained a priest ultimately, and then from there he went to Rome and was became a bishop. From there he came back to Ireland to preach Christianity to the pagan world. That's the story of St. Patrick. Voila. Yes, monument is, ladies and gentlemen. And this originally was situated up at the high altar because it marked the final resting place of some of the Boyle family. But some local people objected to it. They said it's the wrong size, it is in the wrong place, it is grotesque, they wanted it moved. Now the King's representative to Dublin in those days was a fellow called Thomas Wentworth. Very well gotten with the King. He was good at collecting tax, etc., etc. The King did very well out of that. But obviously Boyle had far more influence with the King, because we know that Boyle and Wentworth were not the best of friends. Wentworth was summoned back to England and subsequently lost his head. The moral of the story was you didn't mess with the Boyle family. Very good advice, but you didn't mess with it. Okay. Now, you can see how large it is, ladies and gentlemen. And if you look closely, come over here please, so you can see this. So if you look closely at it, you'll see some of the figurines are damaged. So the hands and nose, and quite a few of them has been damaged. We can only put that down to the fact that when they moved it from the high altar down here, this is when that happened. But I know it was stored in crates at one time, which tells me that they were able to take it apart. It is made ostensibly of plaster, but it has a wooden content as well, and it's the work of a gentleman by the name of Edmund Fingham. It's the largest we have in St. Patrick's City. Now, I have a question. Are you ready? You ready? I said one of the children is world famous, didn't I? You did. Okay, so I'm talking about Boyle here, obviously, not Murphy. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about Boyle? Anybody studied science in college or university? Studied science? No. So Boyle, do you know, sir? I'm talking about Boyle's law. And Boyle's law was the measurement of gases, yeah? Mm-hmm. And this little boy here is the person I'm talking about. So this is Robert Boyle. He is the man that founded, or the boy who even founded Boyle's law, the measurement of gases. That's world famous. Yeah? This gentleman here, as you can see, playing the harp, his name is George O'Connor. I always say to people that if you're, wherever you're coming from, you're going back to, and you want to bring back a momentum of Ireland, I always recommend a musical momentum, because you can buy your DVD, stick it in your pocket, no hassle with luggage or anything else. So this guy plays the harp, and he played the harp from about the age of 12. Unfortunately for him, he actually contracted smallpox at the age and actually lost his sight. So this is how he made his money, going around with a big house in Ireland, playing to the gentry as it was. He composed about 200 pieces of music. His type of music I would best describe as classical with Baroque with Irish traditional. Yeah, a number of songs, about a handful of 6 or 7 songs, and they would have been only in the Irish language because he could only speak Irish, he couldn't speak English. Yeah, as was the case with most of the population. Other great Dubliners take their influence from this fellow, if you know the name Antonio Vivaldi and people like that. So they were friends, if you like. Now, I said I'd ask you questions. What did I just tell you? What did I just say to you? Just to see if you're awake. The Knights of St. Patrick. Who were they? They were ostensibly a chivalry organisation based on the Order of the Garter in England or the Order of the Sicily in Scotland. Remember, we were colonised from the 12th century, okay? So he was the first Grand Master of the Order of the Knights, hence he's wearing the robes, the sword, etc. But they were essentially just ceremonial. They didn't really have any power. Edward Smith was the person who carved this, and if you look very closely, ladies and gentlemen, even if you're not into sculpting, just look at the beautiful, intricate design of this. You can see how beautiful it is. And for people who say that in Dublin we have no beautiful buildings, even as a tour guide, I'd have to disagree with that. Because if you look at the most beautiful building for me is the Customs House. So if you are standing on a corner bridge looking out to sea, 2 bridges down, behind you can see behind the railway bridge, you see a beautiful building with a green floor. And Smith worked on that building. It's a stunning, stunning building. You have time in your travels. Have a look down there. Smith worked on that. Also some of the carving on the corner bridge Edward Smith is this fellow's name. Section of the window I want to draw your attention to. So you can see the two soldiers, fellow on the right cradling the other chap, yeah? So one of the brothers coming home from in Belgium stopped at Ypres, went into the cathedral that had been extensively damaged. He went into the cathedral, picked up a shard of glass from the floor and brought it back with him to Dublin. Okay, now if you look again very closely at the bottom section of the window, the two brothers, the two soldiers, the fellow on the right, if you look at the helmet he's wearing, on the north side, and this is on the south side, okay? So if you go in there, you actually have the right accent. Now I'm saying over there, and I don't speak like that. So there you go. So I'd recommend that if you have time, do these cafes and be quite close to them. So Harry Clark is the name. Do you have any questions? Beautiful stuff. Okay. The door behind you is called the door of reconciliation. So we will reconcile ourselves to walk around either side of it and hear the story. Is that okay? Just walk through, please. Now, this is the famous door of reconciliation. So in England, in the 15th century, thereabouts, you had wars going on called the War of the Roses. And in Ireland, because we were colonised, the two biggest families here took opposing sides in that war. And the two families here were the Fitzgeralds of Kildare and the Butlers of Ormond. And on this occasion, the battle was taking place up at Christchurch, spilled over, and for the Butlers, it wasn't going very well. They were losing. So they came down here, ran into St. Patrick's, hid behind this door and sought sanctuary. For Ardmore Fitzgerald came in after them and he said, look lads, why must so many people, more people lose their lives? This is folly. Surely it's time to talk peace. And the butler said, you've heard this before, sunshine. If we come out from behind this door, you'll slaughter us. He said, that's a very good point. I didn't think of it. But he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. As a mark of good faith, I'll have my soldiers put a hole in the door. I'll put my hand through the door. If you trust me, in this distinction scenario, it may have been simply the case that people who were on this side of the screen, so they were obviously closer to the altar, they were closer to God. That was the argument at least, and they paid for that privilege. Yeah? But it also meant that if you on the other side of the screen and the choir were singing, you could hear the choir singing, but you couldn't see them. Yeah? Okay. Now, back in the 1860s, just to go back a little bit, the church was actually falling down, as was Christchurch. They were actually a demolition job, and they needed somebody to come in and pay for the refurbishment yesterday. So Benjamin Lee Guinness comes into our story here, the Guinness family, and he said, I will pay for the refurbishment of St. Patrick's on a couple of conditions. And the Dean of the Cathedral said, what are your conditions? He said, well, if I'm paying for a refurbishment of hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions of euro today, these screens have to go. Not only that, I have to be allowed to cover in the ceiling, because you could see the rafters in the roof then. There were holes in the walls. It was that bad, okay? He got his way. And that is why we have the beautiful cruciform cathedral that we have today. And as I said, Christchurch. So the plaque on the back of the pew, lads, why is it in blue? What's the significance of the colour blue?
Sky, heaven.
Come on, I'm waiting for your answer. I can't wait for your answer. Why is it coloured blue?
For French or something?
That was my guess too.
French?
For French?
France.
Very good answer. Okay. No answer to that one. Okay, now it's coloured blue because blue is the colour of royalty. Okay, and what's the significance of the harp?
It's the Irish harp from that represents the Guinness, which was the king that found, like the first one with the King Brian, was it?
King Brian Brew. A couple of places in Dublin I recommend you see. I'll tell you where they are. Okay, lads. This is the choir area. The most beautiful part of the cathedral, they say. And straight away you'll notice the flags and emblems, etc., etc. And these represent We talked about this earlier. If you remember, we talked about the Knights of St. Patrick. So these were all families who gave their allegiance to the King or Queen in England at the time.
Esperemos que nos podemos ver una hora temprano y ya nos vamos otra vez a los centros.
We're from the U.S., but Arizona.
Don't trip away. So I'm pretty sure the options are as follows. We can join the
We're making the sale, they needed any more to stay open. It's very popular once again. Still though, none of it was coming from here in Dublin. Because Dublin, being the capital, was just more expensive to operate here. It's coming from here, which is cheap from any of the countryside. And it wasn't until 2015 that our two founders here, Jack and Stephen Teeling, decided to bring it back to where it all started and open the first distillery here in Dublin in 125 years, Teeling, which is where we are right now. Then that kind of wraps up the history side of things. I'm going to bring you guys through. I'm going to show you on a short video made by Jack and Stephen Teeling. Now, there will be a few flashing images inside of this video. I don't know if everyone's okay with that. If anyone's not, just let me know. Or I'm not going to make anybody watch it. I'm also going to grab those little tickets you got.
Since 1782, when Walter Teeling set up a small craft distillery in the industrial hub of Dublin City. This is a very special part of Dublin. It's the spirit of this place that first convinced us to make our whiskey right here in the Liberties, in the beating heart of Dublin.
Family is what makes our whiskey so special. It's blood, sweat and tears in every glass, and our name on the label. So it's our duty and honour to make sure each bottle is right.
For us, this is more than just a beginning. This is a revival. and now a renaissance. It's about having respect for the generations who passed, but also the confidence to forge ahead, to write the next chapter. This is the home of the spirit of Dublin. The liquid tells the story.
Okay, perfect, guys. So let me introduce you all to the three hardest working women in all of Ireland. So Alison, Natalie, and Rebecca. And these guys are named after Jack Keelan's three daughters. Right, there's quite a common tradition here in Ireland to name a pot still after an important woman in your life. And the process starts with Alison and the oldest daughter. When the wash goes in, she gets heated up to about 80 to 85 degrees. Separating the alcohol from the water. Because water's boiling point is 100 degrees Celsius, whereas alcohol is lower, it's about 76. So the alcohol oil turns into a vapor, that vapor rises up the pot still, into that swan neck, into the back tube over there, and that's called a condenser. Now inside that condenser there's a series of pipes that run all the way over and hold water here. And the only person in the entire city that would have a key for that little guy would be the tax man. Come along, open it up, check the reading, and tax us on our alcohol production. Now, today we have a way more advanced way of keeping track of this, so we don't even use this box anymore. However, it is still a legal requirement to have in every distillery all over Ireland, even though we don't use it. Now that kind of brings us to the end of this process in here. Like I said inside though guys, I'll give you a few minutes and you're going to walk around, take some pictures, check out a few of the machines. I'm going to be walking around with you guys. If you have any questions, you are more than welcome to come and ask me. And I'll let you guys know when we're moving on to the next area.
Oh yeah, how did we go through it?
Okay guys, so just give me 1 minute, right? I'm just going to fly out these doors here to let them know we're in here so they can start pouring your guys' drinks for you, okay? Very important that. So just give me 1 second.
Did they turn them around or move them or roll
No,
them?
not really. In places like America, they will move them from like, if they have a lot stacked up on each other, they will move the top layer to the bottom layer and move them all up a level because heat rises and heat will affect the evaporation and the flavour process. But in Ireland, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, so they don't really move them around that much. What question do I have? In Greenmore, there is a bottle right now. It's not out yet. But it's this year. It's going to be 40 years old. Okay, so guys, this is us in here. So all you have blue wristband, you're going to be on the right Oh, okay, so if you want to go down to the end and then you after, so you guys can be together. Okay, then perfect. And then yourself here and then you two guys here. Sweet. Okay, perfect, guys. So we'll get started. Now, listen, a lot of different places you'll go, especially different countries, generally tend to have different rules. And then the barrels we have with this guy, we have a bourbon, a virgin oak, a Madeira, and then there's two kinds of ports. There's a white port and a ruby port. Like I say, loads happening inside this class. If you get any of those chocolate loads, they come all from the ports. And to give it chocolate and berry flavors. Okay, and for yourself with 3, I'm going to come back to you. The guys with 4 just have something done, so I'm just going to flip flop back between you, okay? By the way, guys, this goes for everyone though.
Porque no lo vi en el baño.
Aquí estamos enfrente de The Christ Church. And right there is St. Patrick's Church. million years could get.
Yeah, so
Espérate, así.
No voy a tomar. Más
Las tortillas.
E hoy tenía de mesa dava scoro.
Quella che tu sparisci, non ti vedeva, le suole. E pure il torteggione.
Es que yo creo que traen el empapelado.
No, chiquito.
Dai, ripeti che già, non mi piace.
Caballo, mira, María, sácalo. Qué bola, qué bola, qué bola. De el, creo que era el símbolo de del gobierno legislativo, algo así. Y después el Guinness lo adoptó.
Ok, el Guinness adoptó el símbolo del arpa. ¿En ese vamos a ir? No.
Sí, el 13.
¿Pero va para allá? ¿Qué?
Dólar 70, lo mismo.
Ok, ahí me dice.
Westmoreland Street. Throat Westmoreland.
Ahí decía, por 100 dólares te damos 82 euros. Sí, ahí en el cambio. That's the washing machine.